May was a pretty mediocre month, so let's talk about the books I read, what I've thought of them, and if they're worth reading for you too. Hi, I'm Katie, better known as Reading with Katie Louise. I am a crime and thriller girly who occasionally branches out for a bit of a palate cleanser, and today I want to talk to you about my May reading wrap-up. This was such a mediocre month for me. And I'm looking back at the ratings and I'm thinking some of these may have been highly rated for the wrong reasons. And yeah, I just didn't have a book that blew me away. There were no 5 stars, but yeah. We'll talk about the stats first and then we'll get into the books, which is what you're here for really, isn't it? And I think we'll just get the boring stuff out of the way. If you are new here, welcome. I am so happy to have you here. And I would absolutely love it if you could drop me a subscribe. I am on a mission now to get to 400. This never gets old. I'll probably never get there either, but we gotta try. So yeah, if you could hit that button, I would much appreciate it. And yeah, let's get into it. Now, let's get into the stats. So in May, I'll put the story graphic here. This is what I predominantly use for tracking my books, if anyone is interested. But basically, I read a total of 12 books in May, and one of those was a DNF on top of that. So 13 books were picked up. However, the DNF was like a really early DNF. 3 of those, I don't know why I'm so out of breath. 3 of those were physical books that I got out of the library, actually. 5 were audiobooks. I definitely got into my audiobook era in May. 1 of them was on Kindle, and 3 were Kindle, were ARCs. I think I had a couple that weren't Kindle. And like I said, the 1 DNF. So I had a mixed range. I think predominantly we're averaging somewhere around the 4-star mark. Yeah, I'm just looking at them now, and predominantly I'm going to say we're averaging around the 4. There was 1 that was a little higher than that and quite a couple that were under. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a really good month, guys. I feel like they were good books, but nothing blew me away. Am I reading too many thrillers at this point is what I'm currently thinking, and you'll see the theme within it. But stats out the way, let's get into the books themselves. I'm going to try and do these in order that I read them. I'll let you know the format, what I rated them, and what they're all about. So the first book I want to talk to you about is Ridge of Betrayal by Tessie Braun, and I did rate this 4 stars. Now this is ad PR. I was so kindly gifted this book by Tessie in exchange for an honest review, and this was an ARC release, so I did read this on Kindle. This basically follows, there are 4 characters in total within this story, and it basically follows them as there are 2 couples, don't know each other, go up to climb on this really high mountainous place. They do come across each other towards the end. Basically, this is in the blurb, so this isn't a spoiler. Basically, 4 of them go up there and only 1 survives. Now, this took a bit of getting into for me, and I'm not a massive fan of a slow burn thriller, I'm not going to lie. I've learnt that this month, you'll see. But the premise of this was really, really good. I did enjoy it, and I did end up reading a good 30-40% in one sitting alone because I did get invested towards the end. The last 30% of this book, fantastic. I did enjoy it. It just took a lot of getting into for me, and it was very much, I think, in the 3s up until the ending. The ending did bring the book back up. But for me, when I have a thriller like that, I do struggle, and I want something that hooks me in straight away. I want to know what's going on, and even if that's the prologue telling me what happens at the end of the book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm invested. And yeah. But I would still recommend it, especially if you're new to thrillers, slow burn kind of vibes in terms of thriller-esque. There's a lot of story building and character building in this, but nonetheless I did enjoy this. This is actually Tessie's first thriller, so for a debut thriller I think it's fantastic. She does have other books currently out, but they're not a genre I think I would visit. But if you want to check her out, all of her books are on Kindle Unlimited, so yeah. Also, I'm going to give her a mention. I'm all for supporting indie authors, and yeah, still a good book, but wasn't the 5-star rating I was looking for, but still a good book nonetheless. How did I forget about this book when I said my month was mediocre? So, my first audiobook pick of the month was Room 21 by Jessica Huntley, and I actually rated this 5 stars. How did I forget about this book? So, like I said, it's my first audio. This was actually recommended to me by Chris at Bookmarked by Chris, and this basically follows a woman who is working in a hotel. She is approached by this very rich and bizarre woman and says, "You are the perfect person to come work at my hotel." When she gets there, she has to sign all these non-disclosure agreements, and basically you do not go in room 21. This book was dark. I actually ended up inhaling a good chunk of this in one sitting because I was invested. It is creepy, it is dark, and oh my goodness, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but that still made me love the book quite a lot. And that says a lot to me about that because, yeah, I just can't explain it. This book was just... Yeah, I mean, it's very rare I rate a book 5 stars, guys. You'll see that if you've been on my channel for a while now. And although I seem to be handing them out pretty quickly this year, but yeah, it's very rare I rate an audiobook 5 stars. I think the last audiobook I rated 5 stars was potentially, other than like non-thriller, but thriller-based, I think was like The Castaways by Lucy Clark. So yeah, I'm rambling at you. But yeah, I would strongly recommend this, guys. And Jessica Huntley's actually on Kindle Unlimited. She's a new author to me. And yeah, I'm so grateful to Chris for introducing me to her because definitely looking at her backlist. This also, I should mention, is a pretty short book. I think it's in the high 200s. So if you need a quick and easy thriller and a bit of a fast-paced one at that, then absolutely recommend this. I bloody loved it. I still keep thinking about the ending, and now I've had to bring it up again for this wrap-up. Please add this to your TBR. So obviously I've just told you I read Room 21 in a hot minute because I was obsessed. So then I moved on to Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid on audio. Complete change of pace. I actually put this on hold at my library, and well, not at my library, like on Libby, and it came available when I had absolutely no time in the world to read it. So I put it on hold again and it became available, and I thought, you know what, there's only going to be so many times. But basically I did rate this 4 stars. Now, controversially, it took me a hot minute to get into this, and I was told that the audiobook was phenomenal. Now, admittedly, I don't think I would have cried had it not been for the audiobook. And yes, this gal cried. I was listening to this. I finished it while I came upstairs to do some social media prep. I actually had to text my other half and say, please come give me a hug. So, for a premise, this is actually a lesbian romance, and it is set around space. They both work... I don't know what the company is now, but they work together, and it's very much a historic one as well. So actually, these two women being together is actually frowned upon, and it was very much a secret relationship. Now, I can't tell you why I cried because that would spoil the book, but the scenes that played out within this book, oh my goodness, the narrators did such a good job of making you feel every single emotion about this book. It follows their story and kind of what happens in their life, and I think that's why it took me a while. There's a lot of character building within this book, so if you like that about a book, I think you will absolutely love this. I haven't actually read a Taylor Jenkins Reid before. I tried The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and it's just not my vibe. And that's fine. It's not my genre. It doesn't mean I'm going to hate on it. It just wasn't for me. Atmosphere, I would absolutely recommend. Yes, it took me far too long to get into it. I got to the halfway mark, and I was talking with my boss about it because she actually recommended me to read it, and like, we don't openly talk about books. But yeah, I was like openly kind of saying, oh, actually, I'm not sure if this book is for me. It's like, okay, I'm enjoying it, but it's just not standout-ish enough for me. And she was like, you have to keep going, Katie, you are going to cry. And she was right, I did cry. There is a gut-wrenching scene towards the end of that book that if you don't feel any sort of emotion by it, I will be surprised. I would love to hear people's, spoiler-free, may I add, thoughts on this, but that, yeah, at the end of the book, I was committed, and yeah, what a book. I feel like I've just repeated the same thing like for ages there, but I would recommend this, thriller or not. Like, I'm a thriller reader and it's not my usual genre, and I loved it. Yes, it's not the 5-star vibe that everybody like gives it, but I would definitely recommend it, guys, but get your tissues at the ready. Okay, on to the next book now, and we are on to, which I do have a copy of, may I add, The Library After Dark by Andy Pliego. Now, I did rate this 4 stars. Now, I'm going to put this down because it's a hardback and it's actually quite heavy. But this is basically, I did this as part of an Insta book tour. This book tour was a lot more interactive than I first planned. I read You Are Fatally Invited by Andy Pliego quite a while ago now, and I really enjoyed it. NetGalley, I'm not going to rant. I could do a whole video on NetGalley's formatting, to be quite honest with you at this point. But basically, this book follows a group of people who get a special invitation to go to this library after dark, and they're all invited, and they're told that basically this house is a bit haunted. Now, people start getting unalived, which, yeah, hold that thought. And yeah, I should probably mention at this point, I actually started another book, which we'll come to later in this video, and I started it, and I was trying to read it alongside the book tour. Both thrillers, it did not work for me. But yeah, strange things start happening in this library, and it is a case of, are they actually going to make it all out alive? Now, I had to read so many pages of this a day. I have not had to do this since I was in the Bad Book Club many years ago, and I struggle with that to the point that I may or may not have finished it 4 days early. Your gal works, okay? I knew I would not be able to finish it on time if I was to read the allocated pages a day, because at this point as well, I should probably mention in May, I actually really struggled mentally and I did slump quite a lot. And that is because work was so physically exhausting, I just did not want to pick up a book. So that's kind of why. So yeah, I ended up just finishing it all in one go on the Sunday so that I could just go back to my usual one audiobook, one physical. But yeah, back to the book. This was suspend your disbelief kind of book, and it did take a while. The middle bit was a bit like, God, get on with it. Like, I was struggling a little bit. However, this picked up and I did not want to stop reading it towards the end. I really enjoyed this. I really love Andy Pligo's writing. She is something else, and yeah, I would recommend it, guys. It was such a good read. And the Insta book tour that we did as well. So we had to create like a profile for a character we were given, and we also had to do like prompts for it on rate it and things. And it was like, it is a trust no one thriller. And I did not guess the ending on this. And you think you can because it seems obvious, and it really is not obvious, guys. So yeah, add it to your TBR. I did enjoy it. There's just points where I think sometimes you can shorten a book, and that was one of those, unfortunately. On to the next book now, and I want to talk to you about The Daisy Chain Flower Shop. So this, for context, this is audiobook form, I don't know if I've mentioned that, and I did rate it 4 stars. Yeah, 4 stars. I actually have a lot of time to listen to audiobooks with my job. You would be surprised when I tell you I'm a trainee teacher. However, that does come with a total of a whole day out of class, not necessarily in one day. So I can often put an audiobook on, and I do listen at a 1.8 speed, primarily depending on the book. Fantasy I slow down a bit, but thrillers I like the fast pace, brings the drama a bit more too. So I listen to a lot. So we are on book 3 of the audiobooks at this point, but I was very work influenced in May. I had a lot of deadlines to meet. I was working above and beyond to get things done. So I did listen to a lot of audio. I did also crash out on weekends, so audiobook was my better option than trying to pick up a book when I just didn't feel like it. Anyway, onto the book. This is book 6 in the Dream Harbour series. As I've said, my rating is 4. I love these books. These are a guilty pleasure of mine. And it follows Daisy, who basically has this flower shop, but she is unlucky in love. And people strongly believe that she is basically cursed. So no one is going to buy flowers from her shop. Elliot is new to town. He happens to come in when her ex comes into the shop, and they end up in this like fake dating setup. It works for him and it works for her to try and get her shop back on track and get it to the bustling business if they think she's lucky in love. I loved the concept of this. It seems to be very much a love-hate book. I have seen a lot of mixed reviews over on the other platforms, but nonetheless, I did enjoy this. Again, it's a palate cleanser. It's not a 5-star read by any means, but I do enjoy them. And yeah, if you haven't read the Dream Harbour series, I strongly recommend. I think my favourite is still the Strawberry Patch Pancake House, but nonetheless, easy to read, easy to follow. They're reasonably short books. When I listen to them, they probably take me 5-6 hours. So they're a nice little listen, and they're easy to follow when I'm doing my work. I do love a romance purely for that. So yeah, I'm not going to chunt on too much about it. If you want a romance, then add this to TBR. It's cute. I loved the drama behind it. I loved the fake dating trope that sort of becomes more trope. And yeah, this is your sign to add a new guilty pleasure to your TBR though, because it's exactly what it is for me. Next up, I picked up Black Summer by M.W. Craven, and as you can tell, this is physical and By the Glimmer, a library pick, and I rated this 4 stars. So this is book 2 in the Washington Post series, and we continue on with Poe and Tilly. Now, the beginning of the prologue of this book instantly had me, oh my god, here we go, another 5-star. This really was nothing like. Now, I switched between Kindle and physical with this as well, because it did come on 99p for the month as well. So this follows Poe, who basically charged somebody many, many years ago with a crime, I think it's 6 years ago, of the death of the suspect's daughter when she was kidnapped. They never actually found her body, and there was enough blood at the scene to say, but she's probably dead. In comes Poe, he prosecutes the guy as part of the investigation, and yeah, 6 years later, this guy's daughter just walks through the door of the police station and goes, hello, I'm alive, and I was kidnapped and tortured and etc. So then obviously Poe's in serious trouble. The guy's coming for him basically. And yeah, I think the reason I didn't love this as much is because there wasn't enough Tilly. Now, I absolutely love Tilly with all my heart. She brings so much to it. I don't think it's explicitly said, but I do believe that Tilly is neurodiverse. She's very literal. She's very antisocial, very, like, doesn't necessarily understand social cues. And that makes her so funny because what she comes out with is hilarious. I laughed so many times at the puppet show, and that was an instant 5-star for me. Whereas this just wasn't the same. Tilly wasn't in it as much. She was a lot more serious of a character. And yeah, I just didn't love that as much. Still a 4-star, still a good thriller. And once I actually had time, because at this point in the month, end of term was coming, and oh my God, did I pick up a book? Barely. This took me well over a week to read. But then I think I sat down one Sunday and managed to blast through the whole thing. So yeah, once I got into it, yes, I was committed. The chapters are short, which you guys know I absolutely adore about a book. And yeah, if you haven't picked up this series, this is your sign. If you want to know more about the rest of the series, because obviously I'm new to the series myself, Carly at the Pastel Bookshelf absolutely raves this series and says it only gets better. I've added the curator to my TBR. I'm hopefully meeting him in July, so it's the reason it's on my TBR. But yeah, I would recommend it, guys. This series is great if you're looking for a new thriller detective series to get yourself stuck into. And if you want something with a bit of character to it, this is definitely the series for you. Next up, and another ACK copy, is The Killer in Room 5 by Sam Holland, and I rated this 4 stars. Now, this was actually a little disappointing for me. Now, firstly, I had to read this on my iPad. I'm not going to rant at you for ages, otherwise this video is going to become a rant about NetGalley. But the formatting was crap. I'm going to say it straight. The formatting was shocking. Sentences weren't even on the same line. Like, that's how bad we were working with here. And basically, this is a Sam Holland book, and I was a little confused at the beginning because I genuinely thought that they were referring back to the Major Crime. And I think they are referring back to the Major Crimes series, but not the actual cases. I think it's the same unit, but different staff. Like, it's, I don't know. Please someone explain to me, because I still don't know to this day. And basically, this follows... How have I forgotten what this follows? Follows a woman in a psychiatric hospital. No, the guy in the Let's try again. I was going to stop that, but I'm not going to edit it because we can't all be perfect. Basically, this follows a guy who has an absolute nightmare, wakes up and says he's killed someone. However, when he describes what's happened, the police get a phone call to say that that case has happened. This gets a little bit wild, I'm not going to lie. The ending was wow. I'm so glad I picked it up on my iPad because I don't think I'd have read it on my Kindle in that format. It was absolutely wild, to say the least, and yeah, I could have loved it more. It didn't quite give me the Echo Man vibes, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting concept. It was a psychiatric hospital. I don't think I mentioned that. So yeah, I would recommend it. I've lost my train of thought with this book completely, and I don't know why. But yeah, I'm still up to date with Sam Holland books. I've tried Louisa Scar, and funnily enough, despite them being the same people, I just don't love the book as much. But yeah, I'm not going to say any more than that. I would recommend it. This did release in June. It was an art copy, which I'm obviously eternally grateful for because I love Sam Holland. And now I probably have to wait another 12 months for a new release. But yeah, if you like psychiatric hospital thrillers, absolutely recommend it. And boy, did this get wild towards the end. Like, once it stepped up, it stepped up. And I think I actually read the majority of this in a day. So it is a quick and easy read too. Now, this next one could be controversial, so please don't hate me or unsubscribe if I give this view. Reading is subjective. I read The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier, and I rated it 3.25? No, 3. I rated it a straight 3. So this basically follows a guy who moves into his grandfather's house, and basically, they caught the butcher years ago. There's also a female main character, and she is adamant that her mum was killed by the butcher. However, he was killed a year before her mum was, and she's adamant that the butcher is still out there. And when killings start happening again, it's very clear that the butcher wasn't killed at all, and it was the wrong guy killed. I kind of feel for me. Now, I'm not saying this was a bad thriller. I would never slate a book like that. However, I think I've read so many thrillers now, this was staring me in the face. And it was a bit anticlimactic. I actually really struggled to pick this up. I didn't want to. I was slumping by the end of the month. I should probably mention that. And that may have impacted my rating. But this book for me, we find out who the butcher is quite early on in the book. Now, I'm not going to say who it is, obviously for spoiler-free reasons. However, for me, I just feel like this was so obvious and staring the characters in the face that it was just too obvious for me. Like, I just feel like, why has nobody figured it out? Because it was literally thrown at them. And I think that's an issue I had with the book. The chapters were ridiculously long too. So if you are not a long chapter girly, please, you're going to need time. I have basically, I think some of the chapters were like, you're looking at 15 minutes a chapter, 10 to 15 minutes a chapter. You guys know I'm a short girl chapter through and through, like, short girl chapter? Oh my gosh, short chapter girly. I'm not a short girl. Well, I am, but anyway. So yeah, it didn't hit the spot for me, and so many people have rated this 5 stars, so obviously I would recommend it. I think it's good for new to thriller readers, and I also think it's good if you want something with slow burn. It kind of builds up over time. The ending was good. I enjoyed the ending. Like, I don't want to take that away from the book. I did enjoy the ending, but yeah, it just didn't fully hit the spot, and I was really hoping this would help me get me out of my slump, and unfortunately it didn't. But that doesn't mean I don't recommend it to you guys. If it still sounds like your thing, please add it to your TBR. I fortunately managed to get on a 99p Kindle deal. It is tricky to get hold of, but yeah. I'd still recommend it. New to thriller readers, don't mind a long chapter and a slow burn, then this book's probably for you. Guess what, guys? We're back at another audiobook. So the next book I want to talk to you about is Knight Rider by Sloane Fletcher, and I actually rated this one 4 stars. This is my first book by Sloane Fletcher, and it has been a hot minute since I picked up a cowboy romance. So as I've said, this was an audiobook pick. Now, I way overpegged my TBR for May, I'm not going to lie to you, but the issue was they all had to be read in May. There was no in between. I left myself in the shit. So basically, Knight Rider is a romance. This was my in-person book club. Now, I actually met them back in April, and this was decided that in April and May we would have a book each. Did I read it in May? No, I thought I had loads of time. Did I then have 6 arcs to read in May? Something like that, yes. And I realised I was so heavily behind. So I ended up opting this for audio because, as I've said, my romances kind of mix. So this follows our main character. I want to call her Nina, but I don't know if that's her name. And basically, she comes to this ranch to get away from her life. She is a actress, I believe. She's in the spotlight anyway. And basically, I should mention it's got a trigger warning for sexual assault. So if that does trigger you, then please stay away from this book, because there are quite a lot of themes where it is mentioned and her journey and everything. So I would probably avoid it if that is a trigger for you. But otherwise, definitely recommend it. She comes to escape, and obviously the male main character then is here, and they end up having this like friendship. I think it becomes like a friends to lovers type vibe. Single dad, may I add. Now, if you've been around a hot minute over on my other platforms, you know my favourite romance in terms of cowboy romance is Heartless by Elsie Silver, which is indeed a cowboy romance, and a single dad one at that. So yeah, I liked the single dad trope. I loved how this developed, but there was drama within this. So like the last 30% of this book, I ended up inhaling because I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? There is drama. She's trying to hide from life, and it's not always that simple. But oh my goodness, this needs to be added to your TBR. I believe this is book 1 in a series, so I'm going to go and look into more books. I feel like someone told me she was also an indie author, but please feel free to correct me on that one. I don't know. They are available on Kindle Unlimited too, so if you are in need of your cowboy romance, definitely add this to your TBR. Next up is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and again, please don't cancel me. This was a 3.5 star rating. So this actually came highly recommended to me after I enjoyed 9 Lives by Peter Swanson, and this basically follows 2 people. It gives a bit of Strangers on a Train vibes. And basically these 2 people meet at an airport, and the guy says he thinks his wife's cheating with this construction guy that's doing this house of the dreams. Should mention the guy's stinking rich, so he thinks that his wife's only with him for the money at this point, thinks she's cheating. And basically he turns around to this random girl and goes, actually, I think I want to kill my wife. Now, the concept of this at the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm invested. Love this. Let's get reading. And I really wanted to get into it. I was like, yes, need to read this. I actually thought this would be an easy book to get read by the end of the month, and I did have to read 300 pages of this in one sitting because I stupidly thought I could read this over a weekend. If it had been shorter chapters, maybe. Again, Peter Swanson is another author. Why, guys, do we have long chapters? We do not need long chapters in our lives. If I want to do 1 chapter before bed, that is not 20 pages, that might be 10 at an absolute maximum. I want to feel like I'm reading more with the short chapters as well. I want, and like there wasn't much happening. I mean, 9 Lives had long chapters, but I didn't feel affected by that, and yeah. So I kind of just, it was just okay. It was still a good thriller, and I liked where this went. There was one point where I think my jaw was on the floor and I was like, yes, I loved how this went. Sometimes you get a thriller and you really don't like a character and you just think, gosh, they need to be killed. And like, I just loved the outcome of this book. I liked where Peter Swanson took it, and I liked the outcome, which is why it got a 3.5 and not the 3 compared to The Butcher. But yeah, I actually really did enjoy this in the end, and the ending was good, but for me it was just too slow burn, and like, yeah, just way too much dialogue for me. I just wanted a bit more killing going on, to be honest, because the title gives that, and yeah. But if you like Strangers on a Train with a Twist, I think you'll like this. The ending was shocking. I did not see it coming. But yeah, not what I was hoping for. So a 3.5. Please don't cancel me. But yeah, I think a lot of people would love this, and it does come highly rated. So don't take my word for it. Deep breath. Next up is It Should Have Been You by Andrea Mara. And this was a library physical pick. And I rated this 4.25 stars. Now, we picked up, guys. We picked up. So this follows a woman who basically is getting in her neighbour's post because they have the same address. So they both live at, I can't remember the name of the park, but for some reason they've named 2 housing estates the same. And basically she then sends a text to her whole neighbourhood outing them for all their secrets by accident. Like I said, this is a complete accident. However, she meant to send it to her sister group chat, but she put her phone down to deal with her newborn, and it was only when her phone went off the hook that her sister was like, you need to take it down, that all this happened. Then the other neighbour that has the same address rocks up dead, and everyone thinks it's her because of the address. And they think it's a mistaken identity and that it should have been her. This then spirals events. Now, the chapters in this were short, easy to read. I felt invested in this story. It could have been a little shorter, but that is me by personal opinion, guys, at this point. But yeah, there's a series of events. She's trying to figure out what's going on, because things start happening that try and implicate her in it all as well. There are other family secrets going on. There's a lot of drama within this. I probably should mention as well, this is my subscriber book club pick. The Butcher that I've just talked about was my in-person book club pick. You can see why I've got myself in a bit of a rut here. But anyway, back to It Should Have Been You, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. Short chapters, easy to read. I took it everywhere with me and had every opportunity to pick it up. I was invested, to say the least, in this book. So yeah, this one is an absolute must add to your TBR. It was enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. And yeah, add it to your TBR, guys. It's actually my first Andrea Mara as well. Shocker. And I do have some on my TBR. So maybe it's my sign to bump them up my TBR. Last audiobook now, and I picked up How to Kill Your Biggest Fan by Helen Blair, and I rated this 4 stars. Now, this isn't my usual genre. I was kindly gifted this by Helen over on TikTok. She reached out to me as an indie author and asked if I would pick up her audiobook. Now, this is only available in audio, so if you're not an audiobook girly, this probably isn't for you. However, this was hilarious. So it took me a bit of getting into. It's very low level. I wouldn't call it thriller, I'd call it mystery. But this follows basically an author, I can't think of her name, something Witt. Not Helen, because that's the author. Hazel Witt. And basically she is an author that's probably fizzled out in a career, who wrote romances about all these ideals of a love life. How many times do we fantasize over book boyfriends? And basically she was writing them many moons ago, very old style romance, the happily ever afters, etc. And basically she then discovers that she's had loads of letters from her biggest fan, and her biggest fan starts stalking her, and she then decides she's going to write a thriller. Apart from this, thriller is based on her biggest fan because she has found all her all her letters, and she has realised what this woman is like. She is unhinged, and I must admit, this woman is unhinged. I actually found the last 50% of this book brilliant. The first 30-40 was funny. And this turned dark, guys, so do not think for one second that this wasn't dark enough. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend this. Helen is lovely as well, and I really appreciate her reaching out to me. I'm all for supporting books that are not getting pushed out there. And, yeah, if you need something a bit lighter for a start, I mean, it does get dark, but if you need something with a bit of humour behind it just to make you laugh, then this one needs to go on your TBR. Not going to lie to you guys, completely forgot to get the negativity out of the way in this video. So we're ending on it, but never mind. I feel like this just sums up my month. So the last book I want to talk to you about is The Gaia Project by Kate Howard. And this, if by process of elimination you haven't realised, is my DNF. So this was part of an Insta book tour and I got the date for the 29th of May. So I was like, fine, got loads of time. I'm off work that week. So I should get it done in plenty of time. I should also probably mention, I thought I had a week off and I was like, yep, 4 or 5 books, bash them out, no time at all. I didn't even read one. Sorry, that's a lie. I read It Should Have Been You and The Kind Worth Killing in the full week, but I read The Kind Worth Killing because I thought I had time and I had to spam that in a day for my OCD. So anyway, The Gaia Project, I can't even tell you what this book's about because I DNF'd at 60 pages. The writing was absolutely not for me. However, a lot of people on the tour really enjoyed it. I just think the writing style of Kate Howard just isn't my kind of writing. I actually didn't have a bloody clue what was going on. And like one sentence, she said, oh, and then she went, I used this vowel to speak. And I was like, what? So yeah, it took me a while. The chapters were long and I think it's something to do with a missing person. 14-year-old Gaia vanishes after walking away from a village festa. 2 decades later, the mystery still shadows everyone who knew her. Frank, the distant father who never understood her, Paul, the American half-brother who had only just begun to, and Bree, who met Gaia during that long-ago holiday and found the girl's presence unsettling in ways she had never faced. Now Bree returns to Italy with her young daughter whilst grieving for her mother and hoping to reconnect with Frank and Paul, but Paul is consumed by a secretive documentary project about his sister's disappearance and Bree is drawn back into the tangle of desires, jealousies and omissions that shaped the summer Gaia went missing. As the past and present collide, painful truths about that night begin to surface, truths that threaten the fragile bonds Bree has rebuilt and force her to confront consequences. I think holidays are just not for me, and I know I only gave it 60 pages and that's on me, but the writing style is a massive thing for me. And I mean, it doesn't help that, the text is ridiculously small for me. Obviously it was an ARC, so I couldn't just go and get it on Kindle, but yeah, nothing much had happened. I might have given it a chance, but I was running so short on time as well that life's too short to suffer through books. And a few have ended up DNFing it on the tour. So yeah, unfortunately a bit of a disappointing end to the video, but never mind. Some books aren't for everyone. If that blurb entices you, then let me know. Maybe it does get better and someone can let me know, but we're finishing on a negativity. Guys, we've made it to the end of the video. Well done if you've stuck around this long. That is my wrap up for May, and I'm hoping that June is a better one. I am feeling, so at time of recording this for context, it has taken me a few days to record it. Unfortunately, the 1st of June started on a Monday and the first day back after a holiday. So as you can imagine, my week has been exceptionally wild. I have not had a minute to spit. So this is me recording it probably nearly a week after the month has ended. But yeah, that is my wrap up, guys, and I am feeling much more able to read, so hopefully June brings me a better month. I know it still sounds like a good month and I probably should have rated some of these lower, but nonetheless, thank you so much for joining me, guys. What I want to know from you now is, what was your favourite read of May? I want to know your suggestions, and yeah, let me know in the comments your favourite read of May. And I know I've already said it once, but I'll say it again. Hit that subscribe button and I will most definitely catch you all in the next video. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and I hope to see you all on the next video.